Some leaders leave footprints, others leave libraries. You're tuning into the Authors on Mission podcast, where industry giants become literacy legends. In every episode, we talk with authors who turn their brilliance into books that transform lives. I'm Danielle Hutchinson, your host and Chief Creative Officer at Authors on Mission. Welcome to your authorship experience. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Authors on Mission podcast, the show where we explore the art of storytelling, marketing, and the impact from every angle. I'm your host, Danielle Hutchinson, Chief Creative Officer here at Authors on Mission. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome a guest who's made a powerful mark in the podcasting world, Mike Wagner. He's the voice behind The Mike Wagner Show, where he's interviewed thousands of guests and built a global audience. He's been doing this for over 30 years and has reached listeners in over 100 countries across 40 plus platforms. Since launching his show in 2018, Mike has conducted more than 1,000 interviews. He's welcomed me as a guest previously, so now we're flipping the script a little bit to explore the intersection of podcasting and authorship and how great conversations can amplify powerful ideas. So Mike, welcome to the Authors on Mission podcast.
Well, it's great to be on. Thanks for having me on, Danielle. It's great to see you again, and you've got a terrific show.
Thank you so much, and as do you. It's always great to reconnect and honestly just build connections in general when you're on podcasts. I always say it's not just about talking about your book or whatever it is that you're out here to promote, but connections really do matter in the writing world. Would you agree?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it does agree, too. In fact, if you think about it, the written word was pretty much the earliest form of communication. Of course, you go all the way back to books, the tablets, the Bible, the hieroglyphics on the walls in the caveman writings. Writing was the most powerful tool back then. So, connecting by writing is totally nothing new. This is going way back, even the freedom of the press with the Gutenberg press and back in the 1700s. And of course, expressing free speech without persecution and whatever else, and the writing word continues to be the most powerful tool, along with the spoken word and text. Sometimes it's getting up there, but the written word has always been the most powerful tool in the world. Even if you lose your voice, like say a bad day with your voice, or you're being persecuted or whatever it is, writing things down has always been very powerful and always connects. You can always go back to it like hundreds of years later on, whether it's in the family heirloom or if it's in like genealogy or like say history of a newspaper, broadcast, or anything like that. You always have these notes written on there. Even artists as well too, singers, songwriters, they write lyrics even on a piece of paper, a napkin, or whatever else. So it's like it's always been powerful from the beginning of time. Pen and pencil, that's always been the way to go.
Definitely. And even though we've talked a lot about how you don't actually quite have a book out yet yourself, however, you really do put a lot of your efforts into promoting authors for these reasons and making sure that they can share their voice and that people hear their stories and pick up their books and read them. So I think that's amazing that you do that. And I guess my main question to you, is what led you into this podcasting world? I remember you mentioned to me once that you used to write for your school newspaper, for example, but you transitioned into this realm. So why the speaking for you in particular over the writing?
Well, actually, I pretty much got tired of writing, and it felt like that my work really didn't stand out. I was trained to be a sports writer back in the day, where it's like, I covered sports and interviewed people and whatever else. I had just tremendous interest in sports in the Chicago, Milwaukee area. But then over time, I felt like that my work wasn't improving, mine didn't stand out, and I experimented with the voice of it and found out that I could amplify it much better, doing it from the written word, whether it's a story, an assignment, or a bulletin, or anything else. I felt like, the voice is much more powerful, and I just amplified it. In fact, it felt like that I pretty much had a destination where I had the radio bug that just bit me back in 1982, going to Harper College. It wasn't journalism broadcasting, it was actually computer science, because computers was the way to go. So, and of course, what was it? Basic, COBOL, Fortran, that was a big thing. And also that I learned that I can operate computers, love pushing buttons, but trying to write programs, solve them, it's like that was not for me. So I diverted to other fields, went back to journalism, but then I got into radio news, and I later played music, and I started experimenting more often. I realized that, having like the spoken word, that was actually more powerful than what I did. And one of the big things that you mentioned about taking time to, research an author is that you have to be interested in the author yourself. I mean, you got to look up the history of it. How did they get started? How were they influenced? And how did they basically got involved? What was the inspiration of certain books? And what was their life like? Who are their favorites? The books, writers, writing styles, genres, just about everything. You can just lay down the foundation about an author, and then you talk about, how this came about, throw some interesting stories. And you also had like the books, what were they written about? What inspired them? And, what was the basis and what's coming up? You get people interested. Hey, what's the new book coming out? So what's coming up? What's coming up? And keep the people engaged. So I've been doing that for quite some time. And I actually I basically just read some stories and, read about how they grew up, emulating Stephen King, or some came from broken homes, and a good portion, worked their high-powered jobs, executives, retirees looking for something to do. And they just sit down, almost 24/7, like they're a CEO job, and treat it as such, just to write, and send off to editors, publish and everything. And takes a lot of marketing too. There's like millions of books out there. Amazon's a platform, Barnes and Noble, Goodreads and everything. So you've got a plethora of outlets out there too. It's a matter of how you utilize it. It's how you manage, and how you just manage to weave your way into the marketplace.
Yeah, and I can see how, you just help so many authors get there. They have to find a way to weave themselves in, like you say, but podcasting is always an excellent way to go because you're reaching many audiences. You can have an authentic conversation and allow your readers to see another side of you rather than just words on a page. You're a real person, or a real voice if it's just audio, of course.
Correct. Yeah. And of course, there are audiobooks out there too. It's either done by authors themselves. They hire actors, actresses, or just get somebody to do that. And I've had audiobook narrators on, and it's not just sitting there reading a book. I mean, you really have to put yourself into it. Like, you're the person, you're the narrator, you're the character, and you're the one that's in the action. And you have to really draw that person into your world. That's the whole thing with audiobooks. You really have to draw that person into your world, per se, when it comes to audiobooks. And with podcasting nowadays, it has to be a radio station, TV station. We have to go through so many hoops. Is that there's probably right now, I think the last I saw, and there was like 13 million podcasts out there all over the world, and continues to grow. So you don't have to be like a number one, like a Joe Rogan, a number one like Howard Stern, or Michelle Obama, or Rachel Maddow, or any one of the top podcasters out there. You create your own number one, and just branches off. Like you tell about how great a book is. They tell two of their friends, they tell two of their friends, they two of their friends, and so on and so on. I don't know if you remember that commercial. There's a shampoo commercial where they said, "Oh, I love the shampoo," and I gave it to told two of their friends. They told two of their friends, and so on and so on. That's how you start building a network, and getting a word out is also word of mouth. Not just through a podcast, but word of mouth. It's where you get people to say, "Hey, I like this book," tell another person, and they tell two people, and they mention on another podcast, or they'll tell somebody about another podcast, get someone on another podcast. So it's a web that just weaves its way through in getting the word out. It's not just the big mediums, it's podcasting or microcasting, cable, where you weave your way through and find cracks and get the people that you never know who's listening.
Yeah, that's true. You never know who's listening. You never know who's going to be interested or pick up a word of wisdom from you, or, be otherwise inspired to either read your book or follow your brand or figure out what other additional content you have out there. That being said, Mike, I'm wondering, everybody here today listening to our show is an aspiring author. One thing that they might not realize is the true extent for how much you do need to promote yourself after your book's on the shelf. It's not a matter of just putting it up on the shelf and leaving it be and hoping it gets sold. Like you just said, it really does take a lot of work. So my question to you is, what tips can you offer these writers when they do come onto podcasts? I'm sure you've had plenty of blunders when it comes to, live interviews. What makes an interviewee shine versus what makes it kind of plummet? I'm wondering if you have any tips.
One of the things is that don't be shy about talking about your book. I mean, you write your book for the first time, just like White's book, The Sweet Psalmist by Serena Wagner, based on the life of King David, Amazon.com, keyword Sweet Psalmist Serena Wagner. She was very interested in the book of David, the life of David, and went into great detail and how this came about, how it came to scripture, and how it came about where he had a relationship with King Saul and the number of trials, tribulations, and everything like that. It's geared to out there like, what was really David like? And there's a special out there right now on Amazon about David's life where some of it's true, some of it's contradiction. And it also takes to where it's like you have an interest level that, hey, you have another aspect of David's life. You have another aspect to, what he really does and everything. And most importantly, don't be afraid to show up your book as well. And one of my sponsors is Missing by Me, Mosensia. He splatters all over social media. It's like Facebook and Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, Blue Sky. Just about every video platform, any platform you got out there, splatter all over and gets out to so many people, not just in his area, but in all over the world. And it's picked up a lot of attention. Russia, Pakistan, parts of the US, Canada. So you really have to find your niche, who's really interested in your work. You also got to find out who's interested in certain topics and what are you really passionate about. Are you passionate about, how you came from rags to riches, how you got to be a millionaire, or how you got to be the owner of Authors on a Mission, what got you started. And also you have somebody who's been in business where they're a CEO for so many years, they got fired, hit the bottom, start a company, worked their way up. And I just read an article about, was it Jeffrey Katzenberg of DreamWorks, where he put in so much of his time at Disney, creating The Lion King and all the movies out there that bailed Disney out. One day they got rid of him, and he told a story about how he started DreamWorks instead of loathing, crying, everything. He actually got into detail about how he started the company and making it a competition. Those are stories out there that really inspire people. Or you have, sports stories out there, how they came from the ghetto or from broken homes, working their way up to majors and, making it to a Hall of Fame. So you really have to get out there and say what really interests people, how do they influence, and where else. I hope it makes sense of this. What are people interested in? What inspires? So give them a reason to read a book. Give them a reason to why they should buy a book, and most importantly, what stands out from the rest of the competition. It's called unique selling point. Well, what makes it stand out from everything else? You got to come up with a few of them. Otherwise, it's just plain answers. It's not going to sell. So don't be afraid to get out there and show off your books and show off. Do it every single time. Splatter your wall with it. And if you want to have a green screen of your book, you can do that too. So there's many ways to get words out there, even outside of it. Business cards, flyers, type a little message on Facebook, tweets. I mean, right now, it's endless out there how you can get your book out. It's endless.
Yeah, definitely. And, again, show off. I like that you said that. You have to be proud of what you do. You can't just, put it out there and hide and hope that other people are going to like it. You can't be shy. You have to be proud of what you're doing. So I appreciate that advice there.
Well, I hope it makes sense as well, too. If I ramble, it's like, hey, stop or whatever else. So.
Hey, we all have a tendency to do that, especially as podcast hosts. Sometimes I feel like we're, I get so into a topic and then I'm like, wait, so what was the question again? But no, you were definitely on point there. And I think that's a lot of advice for our listeners to take home with them.
Something too, and I think that's another point as well, too, that, make sure answer the questions, but don't be abrupt about it. Yes.
No. Yeah.
Yeah. What year? 1968. It's like elaborate on it. It's like you elaborate and say that, how did you first get started? You elaborate on how you got started. Some ideas, elaborate. And when a person gets proposed to you, elaborate. Even like some of the characters, elaborate about some of the characters, elaborate some of the plot. And of course, the rule is don't give away the ending. So that's the obvious rule. So elaborate. expand, expand, expand. And of course, don't be afraid to interject some other ideas, everything like that. And of course, for guests out there, I had this happen too, that, they'll ask a host a question. Sometimes they'll throw curveballs at you. So it's like, be prepared for any curveballs that might come your way. Don't stand with a deer in your headlights like this. Be prepared to answer any question out there. Be prepared.
Yeah, you have to make sure that you at least have some notes next to your screen, especially podcasting. It's so easy. Just have a document there of some, research or notes that you want to make sure get across, so you're not just stumbling over your words. I agree with you though. Like sometimes I'll ask somebody a question, they give me a one-word answer, and then there's crickets for a few seconds before I realize.
Yeah, yes.
You have to be prepared. You have to make sure you can riff with the host, especially because, you also don't want it to be a back and forth question, answer. It's got to be a chat. It's more so you want to listen to your friends having a talk over coffee, not just Jeopardy. So I understand what you mean completely. But let's segue a little bit into the Mike Wagner show and what you do specifically. So you've interviewed so many different people. I'm wondering, do you want to maybe shine a light on some of your favorite interviews that you've had? Maybe some of our audience would like to come check those out too.
Well, one of them is you. I got to say that, and we'll get yours out there. So we're going to keep it a mystery about that. And I think my very first guest was Sandy Hellberg. It was on KFOR Radio. That's how it first started. I was probably the most nervous ever, trying to get connected, trying to get the levels right, trying to time it out. But then after about a minute, it's like having a conversation with a friend. Of course, I understand guests out there. It's just like they don't like all these lists of questions that, that being like backfired and everything. They like hearing conversation. Hey, I did this, and worked with Mel Brooks, and he was really funny. Has some backstories about Mel Brooks and whatever else. And of course, about I'm trying to think of that one movie, that Blazing Saddles, that everybody said it was all offensive. But something, in this day and age, you have to learn how to laugh at yourself. And it's okay to make fun of yourself. We need that time. But he was one of the great guests. Ron Dante, who sang with the Archies with Sugar Sugar, gave a great interview about how he got started. He actually discovered Barry Manilow, while working at CBS Records, wrote the songs, he sang. They were a great duo. Jim Peterick from Ides of March and Survivor. He wrote about how he got started with the band, the story behind the music and production and whatever else. And I think some of the authors out there is probably like, oh gosh, so many out there. So I'll probably have to thumb through. And of course, many of it's about being PTSD and how they managed to first get it, overcome everything else. But I probably have to say Fauci Gario, gave about the Fix Yourself handbook, where it's like, the mental health profession has obviously been really, really, oh my gosh, it's been overwhelming. You learn how to fix yourself. We had a great conversation. Dr. Joy Pugh talks about what's coming up at the end of the world, the end times, and I have her on for 2 hours, just gives great commentary. But of course, I'm going to shift a little bit to one of the actors out there. Willie Muller from Major League was talking about some of the cast members he's been in, played baseball for the Milwaukee Brewers, and just had a great backstory to all that. And I think I also had I think I had 2,000 guests. It's like, I'll be honest with you, all my guests have been excellent. Just writings, just telling great stories about, let's see, I think it's also about saving the world, whatever else. Oh, Chris McKittrick, he's the one that really stood out. I had him on the book about how he on tour with the Rolling Stones, and he gave some great tips. Ask questions that have never been asked. And he gave a little insight about, Mick Jagger, and he was getting tired of the questions, same ones. What are you doing on tour, when you retire, album release, there are all these lists of questions, you get tired of it. Ask questions that have never been asked. Guests love that challenge. Ask questions that have never been asked. So I hope that seals it right there. But like I said, it's like, I've had just so many great guests. It's like, it's just hard to pinpoint, to be honest with you. So
yeah, no, I'm sure that was a little bit of a tricky question, but I guess that's where you come up with the those curveballs that you mentioned before. You have to be ready to riff and figure out what, how you can respond to a question, and the best way to kind of get around to the point of teaching the audience something, and also, honing in on what you want to promote and your brand and all of that too. So I get what you mean, and I'm glad that you had such great experiences with your guests.
And there's one thing, I'm going to throw another one out there.
Yeah.
Listen to some key words. This is for the host. Listen to key words on what the guests are saying. And then if there's something that's interesting, that intrigues, then the host will throw a question there and elaborate more about it. And I had actually a guy that was talking about the future of AI and journalism, and the thing that struck, and I had to like interrupt like that, which I generally don't do, was slander, the issue of it. And that's the one thing that authors have to really watch out for, is make sure your facts are correct. Make sure they're correct. And he said the same thing about possible libel and slander. Is AI can be responsible? Is the creator of AI can be responsible? Are the characters? So you really have to listen to the answers, what the guests are giving. And for the host to elaborate on that, you really have to listen. That's the most important thing. You really have to listen to the answers, not just nod your head off, look at the sky or whatever. It's like you really have to be on point and really listen to what they're saying.
Exactly. And even if it's a matter of just picking up on what, is fascinating you the most and then riffing off of that, whatever it is, it's a conversation, like I said before. So you have to be an active listener, just like with your friends or whoever else pops into your life.
Or even your pets too. It's like your dog or cat. They love to listen. They may not give the best answer in English, but they're there to listen for you. And if they're satisfied with the answer, yeah, exactly. They'll rub against you, they'll lick or whatever else, or just cull up by it. It's like they're active listening to you. So.
Please don't tell me you lick your podcast guest like a dog.
No. Well, actually, there was one thing I did throw out there. Some of the better dog stories. Lane Landon, she was an actress from Airplane 2 and some of the other movies. She had several pets in her background, and there are a couple that walked up, and I said, hey, before we answer this, we have a special guest. You let them talk about their animals. If a kid walks in, you'll let them talk about their kid, or something happens, talk about that. It's like there's always surprises in there, and you'll get to know about the guests, the pets, the kids, and where they are and everything. So pets always make great supplements to being a guest as well. It makes great, especially if we're writing a book about animals and more.
Yeah, you never know, because that's another way to engage the audience, of course. It's funny enough, I just had a guest with her little daughters popped on the screen like right before you with a little stuffed animal, and all I see is the little head of the stuffed animal coming up on the screen as she was talking. It was really funny. But you never know, there's unexpected things, and I guess what you can learn from that is to be adaptive. Don't just stop the show like something unexpected happens. Keep going with it. It's about having fun and having that talk.
Mm-hmm. And of course, it also relates back to days of old time radio and TV. There was no mute buttons, no playbacks, cough buttons, swear out buttons and everything else. You cough, you sneeze, or people just walk in, stuff like that will happen. Or if it's like starting to rain, thunderstorm, and whatever else, that stuff will happen. And of course, I do say things, it's literally being unfiltered. It's just simply have a conversation. Conversations never have a mute button. Conversations never have a playback. Conversations never have a rewind. And conversations never have an edit. So it's just pure conversation all across the board, no filters. I think that's the best thing about the podcast, literally having no filter. Let the guests talk about what they want to talk about, and the host can ask them what you think is best. So I think just having like authenticity and reality really makes a great podcast and everything else.
Definitely. And, it shows people that you're vulnerable. You're not perfect. You're not just some movie star on a screen. You're a person. And that's what gets the audience more interested in looking for more. That being said, Mike, what is next on the horizon for you and the Mike Wagner podcast? I know, all of our guests are not going to head over and check out your show, but is there anything additional that we can be on the lookout for and be excited for, perhaps, that's new and exciting?
Well, the one thing I can say is more guests, more platforms, more countries, and I'm looking to get on some other networks as well too. We're working on that, and I'm also planning on writing a journal as well too. So that's going to be in my precious journal right here that'll be coming out soon. So I'll be working on writing a little book about my 40, hopefully 50, 60 years if I live that long broadcasting, and have some of the great guests. And I had a guest on that actually had he had 1,000 guests himself, and devoted a chapter to about a certain actor, certain actress, a singer. What was it like? I mean, was he great? Were they terrible? Was it funny? Was it tragic? I'm looking to do something like that. And like with you, it's just like, great, everything else and stuff like that. So it's like, I can give tidbits about what was it like having a certain person on a show, or like a famous producer or a singer. All of a sudden, it's like, got to be big. What's it like? So right now there's more guests, more podcast platforms, more countries, and I plan on having a little memoir coming out in the future.
Oh, yes. Please do tell us about that. I remember I asked you, what kind of book would you write? You mentioned the memoir. Would you like to share a little bit about that?
Absolutely. In fact, I can just write some tidbits about my experiences in broadcasting, how I got started, working my way up. And of course, I took unconventional ways to get to where I'm at. So it's basically just having people on who I worked with. So it's basically just a summary of almost like 40-year, and I'm looking to be 50-year career. And what can people learn from this whole thing in the world of broadcasting, podcasting, and what's the future of it? I guess we just have to stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Yeah, and the best way to do that, everybody, is to check out the Mike Wagner Show. Mike, what are some of our links that we can make sure to check out aside from we got Spotify, Apple Podcasts, MikeWagnerShow.com? Am I forgetting anything?
No. You can also check out Linktree as well, too. Linktree, The Mike Wagner Show. You can also go to Facebook, The Mike Wagner Show Podcast. You can also go to Instagram. You can also go to Twitter. You can go to TikTok. Everything's on The Mike Wagner Show. LinkedIn as well, too. Also on iHeartRadio. Also on Apple Music. And I'm also on, let's see, I'm trying to think. There's BitChute and there's Rumble. And also on Odyssey. And I'm also on, let me try to think. I've got so many of them. Geo7, Radio Public, Listen Notes. So if you just type in the Mike Wagner Show, you'll get a lot of podcast platforms in there, like Podtail or Podcast AI, Red Circle, Acast. So if you type in the Mike Wagner Show, you'll get a huge list of where you can listen to. So it's real easy. Just type in the Mike Wagner Show in Google. You'll get a huge list of what I'm on. It's real easy access.
Perfect. Well, we're going to put all those links in the description box of this podcast today, everyone. So please check it out. Again, it's amazing to just be well-versed in shows, get connected with people, especially if you're an author. It's the best way to learn tips and tricks, especially because Mike has many authors on his show, just like we do. So, outreach, learn more about it. It's the best way to become better at what you do, your own craft. So thank you.
And one more thing, by the way, don't forget to check out the merchandise. We want everyone to promote merchandise. Merchandise. Don't be afraid. Merchandise your stuff. Get out there.
You hear that? Slap your name on some hats, mugs, pillows. I see a bag back there, Mike. I love it.
Yeah, and a hoodie, pop sockets, T-shirts.
Pop sockets, huh?
Yeah, that's right. Of course, you have it on your phone, too, although I lost mine. Just pop it on there. You hook it up. It's like you want to do a Zoom call and everything. You have a pop socket right there. So all kinds of goodies. You're your old marketing person. Be creative and get out there. Do what you love and absolutely just be a master at it.
Perfect. Well, thank you again for a fun and insightful conversation, Mike. It's great to see you again. It's been an honor.
And thank you as well, too. And don't forget to check out my podcast. And looking forward to speaking again and looking forward to having Sue. Keep us up to date. Keep in touch. We'll have you back and wish you all the best. And just want to say, Danielle, from all of us here at Mike Wagner Show and Authors on Mission, you and your guys have definitely a great future ahead.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Mike. And to everybody listening, remember that as Mike has taught us, he has a wealth of broadcasting experience and insights. Continue to learn more about it. He's shown a great perspective on how authors can leverage podcasting to share their message. It's invaluable, all of these tips. So thanks again. And if you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to check out our others as well. We always give you the knowledge and confidence to become an expert in your own field, whether you're crafting your first book, building a platform as an established author. The lessons you've learned today and in our other episodes are invaluable. So until next time, keep writing, keep growing, and stay on your mission. Have a great night, everybody.
This is Danielle Hutchinson reminding you that somewhere, someone needs the book that only you can write. Visit authorsonmission.com to start your legacy. Until next time, keep leading, keep inspiring, and keep thinking in chapters. Have a great day.